Family, welcome to another episode of Financial Freedom. I am your host and accompaniment on this journey, Derek Brown. Look, we have a great show for you today, but first, I always have to say thank you. We started in the midst of a pandemic. 2020, we created a platform to be able to inspire and inform. And at the Hope TV, shameless plug, all caps, one word, you can find us on various platforms. But this show, I gotta say thank you for watching. We went from one show on this platform to over 35 different shows on this platform with millions of views from across the world. So thank you for watching this show, but also thank you for watching Hope TV. Family, we have a subject today that's going to talk about responsible real estate investing. And we got a couple of brothers who's going to put us on some game here. So, first we have John Clark. He has a background in accounting. He's been in real estate since 2006. Portfolio includes family homes, townhomes, condos. He has experience with fix and flips. Then we also have Joshua Gray. He started fighting gentrification with his grandparents' house, and since then it sparked something in him that prompted him to help create JJ Real Estate Group. And they're committed to restoring Black and Brown communities, which is phenomenal. He has years of professional sales experience. He has an MBA, a Georgia Realtors license. He serves as HOA president for subdivision with a subdivision over 330 properties. So please welcome these two brothers with a breadth of experience to the show.
All right. Hello.
Hey.
Fellas, it's a pleasure to have you. It really is. And it's a pleasure to see, especially two Black men out here in real estate doing it big. So I just want to say thank you for your time. I do know it's important.
Yes, thank you very much for the invite on the show. We're definitely excited to come on here and share all the knowledge that we can and try to, encourage others to get into real estate and help in our communities.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And it is so needed. But let me ask you this, because when I look over your backstory, your history, one of you has a background in accounting, the other one has a background in engineering. Why did you decide to plant your feet and begin making this push in real estate of all the directions you could have gone?
So as for me, I've kind of always had a passion for real estate, always growing up, just admiring houses and noticing the different styles of houses and things like that. And even in college, I remember, thinking about doing flips. Like, once I got some money saved up, I can do, I'm gonna get older and I'm gonna do flips. Not even worried so much about the accounting stuff that I was studying, but more so kind of like, okay, how can I apply this accounting stuff to actually real estate, which is what I'm really into. So that it's always kind of been something in me that I've always wanted to do and jump into.
Yeah, and I think from my standpoint, it definitely had more of a personal effect on me. I think when my grandmother's house was getting ready to be foreclosed on, it was just kind of like, what can you learn about it? How can we prevent this from happening? And from
Right.
that experience within itself was really just kind of catapulted me. And linking up with John, a similar like-minded advocate for housing, and being a native of Atlanta, we really just see gentrification has displaced a lot of my relatives, friends, people I know. And I was just like, hey, we really just need to do whatever we can to make sure that affordable housing is still a thing. We don't want it to be a bygone thing of the past. And we talk about old Atlanta and new Atlanta, and we want to,
Right.
say as much as old Atlanta as we can. So that's really been the whole overarching goal of what really drove me into it. I've been investing in real estate since 2013. But
Hmm.
John is the man. He has all this experience, real talk. So I was like, hey, I got to bring him more to the table. So let me go ahead and give him this real estate license so we can, offer our clients more services, and we can be more knowledgeable of the deals when we get to it.
So John is rolling with the account, handling some of the money, but Joshua, you're both passionate. It sounds like about this topic, but you found real world applications and community applications to your skill set, which is dope. I love that. Uh,
Absolutely.
so so let me ask you this, because a lot of people go through these things and just decide to move, right? They just decide to up and go. It sounds like you both already had some influences when you were younger to be able to say, Nah, I'm gonna plant my feet here. You use a term, Mr. Clark, about old Atlanta and new Atlanta. You don't typically hear that unless you're here. Tell us what that means a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So basically, there's just this overall understanding. Like a lot of people who are from Atlanta, we just have a wealth of pride for our
Mhm.
communities. John, for example, he lives in historic Collier Heights. So Collier Heights is a neighborhood uh, built for, developed, and planned for by African Americans. And
Wow.
we have so much rich history in Atlanta. Being the birthplace of the civil rights movement, that a lot of those people who remember those eras, you have relatives, grandparents who were active participants in that. So we want to make
Right.
sure we continue that trend on into this new Atlanta, what have you. So Atlanta right now is a very transient city. It's very rare that you go out and you meet other natives or other people from Atlanta. And just that within itself is like we want to make sure people understand the rich culture of the city, and also to kind of protect those who have kind of been along in that struggle for civil rights and housing advocates.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, just to kind of piggyback on what Josh is saying, we like to use the term counter gentrification because there's a lot of gentrification happening right now all over the city. And
Hmm.
to your point, Derek, you were saying how, a lot of people just decide up and move. Somebody come and say, hey, I'll pay you this much for your property. You know,
Right.
like, I'm gonna take that money, I'm gonna run, I'll stay on the outskirts, get me something brand new. Or, if someone's grandparents or parents pass away,
Right.
family decides to sell the house and split the money up. We're trying to help counter some of that and kind of educate people on the
Right.
importance of keeping these properties in these families, for Black communities in general, because people are coming in and they're basically lowballing you so that they can come in and make a whole bunch of money. They don't care who moves in; they're just trying to flip the house, make a whole bunch of money, sell it to someone that's going to come in and call the cops every time your kid leaves their bike in the front yard. So like
Right.
it creates all of that type stuff in neighborhoods that we've been in, we own, and we've loved, and like Josh was saying, a lot of these neighborhoods, like my neighborhood, was started during civil rights. So for those people that have bought properties during those times and hold on to those properties for us to just kind of let them go, um,
Hmm.
it's a disservice to them. It's a disservice to us in the long run because if we all move out of Atlanta, it's going to be really old Atlanta, new Atlanta, because it's not going to look the same at all.
Right. Right. Of course not. So let me ask you this, because you brought up gentrification in a real world sense. One, let's define what gentrification, if you don't mind defining what gentrification is for us, and then also how it impacts our journey towards this one of financial freedom or wealth building.
Sure. So essentially, it's just the displacement of one group of people to another area, and it can be an adverse relationship, right? So usually another group is moving in and it's pushing out the people who are already there. And we talk about it, and it's a phenomenon that's happening in most U.S. cities across the country. And I think extreme examples is like New York and Chicago, LA. These places are historically known for booming populations, and Atlanta kind of experienced a population boom after the '96 Olympics. And
Right.
ever since then, the population has been rapidly expanding, and we have thoughts and concerns of like our public infrastructure is not able to keep up. I mean, we know that from, the
Mhm.
bridges collapsing, you know,
Right.
things of that. The traffic is crazy because the city was not on target to, we weren't expecting to
Yeah,
rapidly
it's a whole
increase as much as we have been.
right.
Right. So with that, that adverse relationship and how it impacts our community specifically, we just see a lot of the communities. Your taxes will increase, and
Hmm.
most times a lot of people's houses are paid off. We're talking about people, seniors who've been in their properties for years and they have reverse mortgages,
Yeah.
Fixed income,
fixed
fixed
incomes.
incomes, and like when someone comes in and your house is it's been worth around 100, $200,000, and then someone comes in and does this big huge flip next door, and the house is selling for $400,000, $500,000. They're going to make your property taxes go up, and if you're on a fixed income and you can afford it, then they do go to the trying to get reverse mortgages, and or either they're trying to, just because they can't afford their taxes, they get kicked out of their house even though they own it. And so, that's one major effect. And then also, the effect of displacing other people in the community that have been staying there, but because, rents are going up everywhere, they can't afford to stay here. But a lot of people stay in the city because they don't have their own transportation. So they rely on public transportation. So then you're being displaced to move, forced to move outside of the city where you still don't have transportation, and you still got to try to make it to your job, but then they can't make it to their job. They've been displaced. Their kids are having to be displaced. So it just uproots communities and really disrupts, communities. It disrupts everything where, if people, people getting paid minimum wage to work jobs in cities, or low wages in general to work jobs in city. Imagine what that has to be for them if they're being displaced outside of the city, but they're still expected to work those jobs because the gentrifiers aren't coming in trying to work those jobs.
They usually move down here, with their jobs, job transfers, like their jobs were literally bringing them here. So the natives aren't necessarily competing for those same jobs, right?
Correct.
So there's a lot of that happening as well.
We're talking about purpose today and how to find it, how you get started in it.
Whatever you do, if it doesn't make you happy, then don't do it. But if it really does not make you smile and give you joy in your heart, then find something else.
The faith that I have, if it doesn't work out, I know because God gave it to me, some kind of ram gonna come from somewhere and help me figure it out, and it's all gonna come full circle.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight, both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back, because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
My manager, we didn't know nobody. We just knocking on doors and made it work. So it was all about following my assignment. Looking on it now, because I understand what my assignment is, I was just following Christ as he led. You know what I'm saying? I always say you put Jesus Christ first, should never be last.
So transplants are coming in because they already have jobs lined up that are better, typically better paying or pretty good jobs. I'm assuming if they're moving you from across the country to come here, they're coming in with jobs that the natives aren't even allowed to compete for because those jobs are already filled, and then coming in being able to buy into neighborhoods that the natives cannot be at because those property values or rents or mortgages are now higher than they can afford because they were never offered the job in the first place.
Correct. Yep. But we definitely want to bring it back because while we say we counter gentrification, but one of our taglines is we want to improve underfunded areas. So we can bring money into these communities, but how do we find a way to keep the people who are already there? How do we find a way to mesh them into this new reality of a community, this community fabric? A lot of the senior citizens, for example, they're a lot of the backbones of these communities. They're very active in neighborhood planning unit meetings. They are the ones who are organizing community events, the community cleanups. They're the ones that we see actively walking throughout the community. And, people around our age, not to dig at us, but we're busy. We're very active in our careers.
Let's be real.
Right. Let's be real, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So just imagine, we have an influx of a whole bunch of kind of young people living in one neighborhood, and we're just, career driven, oriented. A lot of that gets lost in translation. So you have to have that balance between, those different generations, but we have to find ways that we can all live in the same communities.
Right, right. But let me ask, right? Because one argument that I came across in looking about investigating about this interview was how are you able to do that, right? How are you able to invest in these communities and provide affordable housing without centralizing poverty? Because part of the issue is we need to be able to keep a certain level of, whether it be subsidies or whether it be different incomes or so on and so forth. But is there a worry that if you're creating these affordable housing units and they're good and they're clean and they're safe, that you're centralizing poverty in the sense that it's eventually is going to go downhill?
No,
Love that question.
yeah, that's a great question. But no, so like with a lot of the things, a lot of the things that we are doing is like we're not just trying to provide affordable housing for people, for them to stay in there forever. We're trying to provide affordable housing and also educate people so that yes, you can stay in this affordable housing for this period of time and this, that, and other. But our hope is that you will get yourself stable enough to where you have your credit and stuff, in a decent place, and then you also have some savings to where you can buy your own house. It's all about the financial freedom to get to the point to where you can buy your own and be self-sufficient, to where you're not relying on someone else to pay part of your rent, and that and from that kind of builds community in itself, because it gives your kids a stable place to stay. You're also, you're showing your kids that you can do it so they can do it when they get older. And it kind of is the starting point to changing a lot of people's mindsets on how they view home ownership, how they view stability, how they view being self-sufficient. It's kind of like that starting point, having a stable home and a clean home, whether you start out on a housing program and migrate up to having your own house. Like all of that kind of it starts on a path.
Gotcha. So
Pathways to homeownership.
go ahead. No, I'm sorry, I missed that. What'd you say?
And I said pathways to home ownership. That's basically what we want to allow, or at least that was part of our mission. We want to give them the tools and resources. Hey, here's how you do it, and we don't want people to essentially stay in those same positions, right? Because usually all people need is a chance, right? Once they have that access to those jobs, those in-town jobs that they desperately need, they're able to work out and be a really one and an age out the program. And we do have a relationship with the Atlanta Housing Authority, for example. And with that, the Atlanta Housing Authority I think it's over 20 waiting lists, right? These waiting lists are locked up. You can't even get on them, okay? Wow. And once they get an alert that housing becomes available, they have to move on those within a certain amount of time, where they lose out on their voucher. They lose out on their voucher, then they don't get assistance. Then they're back at square one, where they can't afford the amount of rent that it costs to stay in Atlanta right now. And then that trickles down to what do? We move further out. Do we start doing taking risk and trying to find other ways to make money, that might not be the best ways to make money. So it puts people in a bad situation to where, that's when payday loans come in. That's the whole predatory lending and all that type stuff. It trickles down. It immediately trickles down. And there's honestly, there's a housing shortage right now. It's starting to be talked about more, but there's a huge housing shortage. It's going to get worse once, all of these moratoriums get lifted up, and, people that are behind on rent, they're going to get evicted, but there's literally nowhere else to go right now. There's literally nowhere else to go.
That's very interesting, because one thing that I've kind of come across as well is this idea that a lot of people seem to think we're in a bubble right now, in the sense that housing prices are so high and are climbing that people swear it's going to bust. And the last time a housing bubble bust, there was a lot of predatory lending, like you said. There was a lot of overestimated house values. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so when this housing bubble bust, people were losing their houses on the court steps. Would you say that we still need to be real estate minded? Like if I'm looking at that, right, and I go, oh, this is a bubble, I'm going to wait until this thing bursts and I'm going to rack up. If we're talking about, socially conscious real estate investing, and I'm like, yo, I'm in here to make money, y'all tripping. What is what is socially conscious real estate investing, and how do you deal with those people who are just like, yo, man, I'm trying to make a buck? I mean, isn't that what real estate is for?
Correct. And no, that is a very good question as well, because I mean, we're in business to make business well. We're not a nonprofit.
Absolutely.
So, but
Right.
there are still ways that you can make money. And like I said, really, we love the fact that we have a house on the Atlanta Housing Authority, that, you know, that we have properties with the Atlanta Housing Authority, because, you know, we are responsible landlords. So we're not just trying to do it just, you know, get the house. I'm not telling people don't go buy houses and rent them out, but get them and make sure that you're renting it out and being a good landlord to the people that are staying there, because you're going to make your money in rent. Like, you know, that's, if that's what you're getting into it for, to buy a house and rent it out, you're going to make your money in rent. You know, if you're getting a house to, you know, flip it and this, that, and the other, then you start looking at other ways, you know, that most people think that's so much more profitable, and it can be, but it's also so much more harder when it comes to talking about flipping houses. Whereas, you know, if I buy a house and I rent it out, I'm collecting rent on it, making that money on it, but I'm also maintaining that house and maintaining the value of that house, so that later on, if I want to sell it later on down the road, it's really about the long game, not about the short term. Hey, let me make some quick money. Like, that's where I think people kind of get a little mixed up when it comes to real estate, trying to make quick, fast money, which in some cases you can do that. But if you're trying to be socially responsible and trying to actually build a legacy for yourself, there's nothing wrong with having a bunch of rental properties that are bringing you income in every month, and you're still keeping that value of the house. So whereas when you get older, if you got, you know, 10, 12 houses, you get older into retirement, you need some money, you know, outside of what's coming in from your retirement check or Social Security. If you need some money to do something, sell a house at that point then. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
you
yeah,
have, oh, go ahead.
you bring up a very good point. So what does it mean then for me to be a socially aware investor? I think you all have a project coming up. What does it mean for me to say, okay, I see these two brothers doing great things for the community. They're trying to create affordable housing. They're trying to make sure that our people retain some of the houses that have been passed down generationally. Um, when they come to you and they say, hey, I'm interested, but what does it really mean to be both? You know, what does it mean when y'all say, hey, we're socially responsible? Is it just being a good landlord? Is it, I'm guessing now, right? Is it where we pick the houses?
It's
Is it who we choose to help? Is it all of that? Because it sounds so
yeah.
interconnected when y'all talk about it. It's just such a huge webbing.
So honestly, it goes back down to real estate is predominantly the ways most people can attribute or grow their wealth, right? Black ownership is key. Black and brown marginalized communities. So the more properties that are Black owned, and that's kind of another one of our things, right? We're buying these properties, and the overall goal is to be able to have enough properties available. So yeah, we want to be able to get as many people off these waiting lists as we can, right? There also another strategy is house hacking, right? We even talked about this amongst, you know, maybe we get other people to do this as well. House hacking is basically like you're buying a house, either you're renting out a room, or let's say it's a 2-level house, right? You have an upstairs and a basement. You live in one part and you're renting out the other part. Something very simple like that. But those situations within themselves, they can help contribute to accumulating wealth. It's as easy as just renting out space within your home. We know there has been a run on the market with short-term rental properties. And what's happening with those is you have a lot of out-of-state investors who are coming in, and that's what they're doing. So they're buying these properties as well. And their money is coming from the outside, right? And they don't necessarily have any means or any plans to convert any of these properties over to where they're affordable, right? So our take on that is we want to make sure that no matter what we do, we do buy and hold strategies. So you talked about our upcoming project. We recently purchased another property over in the East Point area. So we specialize in properties in Southwest Atlanta, and now we're going over to the East Point area. But our overall goal is to be able to take these properties, buy and hold them. We hold them, and we also are in the short-term rental market as well. We have the relationship with the Atlanta Housing Authority. We're doing that because we want to make sure that once we are able to, we get to the point where, hey, we can open all these properties up for people who have applied through the Atlanta Housing Authority, the voucher program. We want to make it a way that we have properties available.
We also want to leverage the properties that we're accumulating now. We want to leverage that. We want to get into multi-unit, apartment complexes and things like that. But we have to crawl before we can walk. So right now we're building our foundation to where we're buying properties and we're developing relationships with those properties. But overall, what we're trying to do is get to the point where we can utilize the properties that we currently have and use them as leverage for us to get something bigger, so that we can one of our ultimate goals is to have a live, work, play place where people can live with affordable housing. We can provide decent work where they can learn skills so that they can take them to other places. Like I said, we want to build people up to where they can become self-sufficient, don't have to be on the housing program. And that's where our socially responsible part comes in.
COVID-19 has taken things to another level in terms of health, wellness, nutrition, and we, especially our community, we have to be even more on top of things now, because we are the ones living with chronic conditions. Now is the time to make some of those changes we've been talking about, and it's time to stop talking about it and be about it.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
What's up, House of Folk? It's the Flavor King. Today, now we're going on the Orient Express, and then we're coming back south. Now we got some chicken fried rice and egg rolls, and then we're gonna end it up with that Southern red velvet cake. Y'all ready to bake? Let's go.
Like I'm from the West Coast, but when I go back to visit, you're seeing more and more of these areas where you barely have to go 2 miles to find everything in that certain area. Maybe a 12-mile radius, it's all there. So that's very pivotal as well. So if I hear you correctly, part of their social responsibility is making sure that you're creating properties that allow people the option of creating wealth by making them affordable to get in, but also keeping resources around that area that allow them to build themselves up. And then whenever they choose to go, if they should do so, they have that option. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. You got it.
Definitely. One thing that I've learned on this show, actually, on this show, Financial Freedom, is that there are often moving parts that we don't see that are just as needed as the parts we do see. Since you've been in the industry, are there parts where you say, you know what, if we have more Black and brown people in these particular positions, this would be a lot easier? What are those positions that you suggest Black and brown peoples look at to be able to help their community, help our community do better in this field?
You want to take it or you want me to take it?
I would say I have two in mind, but go ahead.
Top of my mind is, we need more Black banks and more Black support with financing this stuff. Because I feel like they would understand, Black and brown banks, because we actually work with a bank. Our current lender is actually led by a Latino couple. But yeah, so like Black and brown banks, because I think, talking to people that understand what's happening in these neighborhoods and why it's important to invest in it and why it's not just about profits, but it's about community. Talking to people that understand that could take us a long way.
Gotcha.
Also, go ahead.
So that was definitely my number one, because we definitely need black people, black and brown people in those positions, but also contractors. Don't be afraid to go to trade school, people. Like, when I tell you all, we employ so many different types of contractors, for plumbing, electricians. And so our goal when we were building our network is to, how many people can we realistically employ who look like us? And we do run into roadblocks. I'm not going to say we discriminate. We judge people off the quality of their work, right? But it would be so nice if it was more options within that space, right? And I think we're from a mindset. Well, it might be changing now, where college is the only option. You got to go to college. Don't be afraid to go get these trade schools. I'm telling you, if I had a plumbing background, locksmithing, electrician, just a lot of able to hang drywall or patch roofs.
And also, if you're not hands-on, also becoming a general contractor.
Yeah,
that's just
GC.
Project management. And so many people out here doing project management for corporations, but being a general contractor, you're really just piecing it all together and sending out other people to do the work for you. And I mean, going to trade school to get that general contractor license, that as well is something that's very important. Yes, you need to know about some of the stuff that's happening in the houses, but you don't have to know how to do it. You need to just know how to organize it. And keeping things organized, staying on budget, giving people that real customer experience, which is what a lot of people are doing in corporate America for a lot of corporations. You could use that and become a general contractor yourself, and it's just project management just for real estate,
Yo, I'm about to write that down. Oh, I ain't know. You said general contract. Yeah, I'm gonna have
general contractor. Look into it. Yeah, look into it.
Yo, because one thing that I noticed, I was looking, and we only have a few minutes left, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But one thing I noticed is the lack of general stuff like handyman. Like it's hard to find a handyman nowadays. And then I had someone who let me know, hey, I found this guy who actually runs a school because he found that there were no handymen. And when I look back over it, like I have a couple of college degrees, but when it comes down to it, when you hold a trade, you always have work somewhere. And I think that's badly underestimated. I think you're dead on with that now that you bring that up. If you're a barber, a plumber, electrician,
HVAC tech.
all those things, HVAC tech, roofing, a mason, you always can find or create work for yourself somewhere because you are your skill set. Yeah, that's really. I'm gonna check out general contracting. So
and let us know too.
Look, I'm following you already. So, look, before we go, tell us two things. One, your latest project you're working on that we can look into, and if anybody sees it, they can come find you if they want to invest. And two, where do we find you at?
Okay, so currently, like Josh was saying earlier, we have a real estate project that we closed on last month that we are actually in the process of getting up and running so that we can, we have a campaign to raise funds to get the rest of the money for the repairs that are needed for the property and things like that. And you can actually invest with us. You can check us out on our website at www.jjregroup.llc.com. And we have, information there if you want to ask us questions. We have a form if you want to inquire about anything, to reach out to us. We'll definitely answer any questions and let you know about our current investing project that we have, because we invest, give you a guaranteed interest rate of return, set the parameters on, the principal amount and also with the terms of it. And, you can invest with us.
Yeah, and I was just saying, even on our website, we have all our social media links on there as well. We do have a YouTube channel, and we did our very first project, which is on the Atlanta Housing Authority. We actually did a whole HGTV type thing where we show everybody, the different phases that we went through from getting the house from where it was. We completely renovated it to what it is now. So definitely check that out.
Yo, man, I love it. I love it. Yo, fellas, thank you so much for your time. I know time is valuable. You could have been anywhere, and you chose to give me a little bit of your time. So thank you so much. Also, thank you for that side hustle I did. Me and a couple of my teammates are like, yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks, I appreciate it. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And we just appreciate you being here.
All right.
Thank you as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Financial Freedom on socially conscious real estate investing. Check these brothers out. They're worth your time. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for tuning in again, and be safe out there.
We've been through quite an ordeal over the past 16 months with the pandemic, but there seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel.
People of color have been at the forefront of developing the vaccine, and we should try to educate as much as possible our African American and brown communities to get out and get the vaccine.